Hi, I'm Brian Dunn, and welcome to the most important podcast ever. What makes it so important? It's not about me, it's about you. This podcast is about ordinary people doing extraordinary things, the moments of resilience, the lessons learned in the small acts that made a big difference. From retail floors to boardrooms, we'll share the untold stories that shape lives and careers. This week, our guest is Kelly McGinnis. Kelly has spent her career in the arena at the highest levels of business where the stakes are real, the numbers are big, and the decisions matter. Today, she's the president of business operations for biopharma services sector at Thermo Fisher Scientific, helping lead a $15 billion global business across clinical research and manufacturing. Before that, she served as CFO across multiple divisions, playing key role in integrating a $20 billion acquisition and driving growth, performance, and transformation at scale. But what struck me the most as I was getting ready for this conversation is not just the size of the business or the titles she's held, it's the experience behind it, leading through change, building teams, making tough calls, learning in real time what works and what doesn't when the pressure's on. This is a conversation about leadership, earned the hard way, and the perspective that comes with it. I had a phone call with Kelly as we were getting ready for this, and she talked to me about her Substack. And I spent several hours engrossed in her Substack today. It is fantastic. We're going to link it to this episode and all the places we promote it. But Kelly, what's the title of that Substack?
Leadwithkelly.substack.com.
At Lead with Kelly.
Yeah.
And it has everything you might imagine. So with Kelly's permission, I thought we'd have Kelly say hello, and then I thought we'd spend some time. I have some questions about the articles I read today.
Well, Brian, first of all, thank you for having me, and I'm flattered that you spent so much time looking at it. It's a passion project of mine, so I'm super thrilled to talk about it.
Well, I'm so glad to hear that, and honestly, your passion for it shows. Where do you live, Kelly?
I live outside Boston, Massachusetts. Born and raised in the state, actually, so I'm a local.
Very nice. Very nice. One of my absolute favorite cities. I lived in Southborough, which is out a little bit, but I lived there for a couple of years, and it was a very, very happy time for my family. We loved it there, very much so.
And like you said, you opened one of my favorite stores on the planet on Cape Cod. So thank you for that vignette.
You're very welcome. I was at that store at the grand opening, and I have very, very fond memories of that. My uncle lived on Martha's Vineyard and was the only year-round surgeon on the vineyard. So it was, I got to spend some summers there. It was pretty cool.
Oh, good.
Pretty cool. So Kelly's, and you got to subscribe to her Substack, and it's so good. And it's so content rich. And there's a number of different headers. Leadership, young professionals, work-life harmony. I mean, the stuff people talk about.
Yeah.
I want to start with the first article I dove into today, Kelly, was your company is not your everything.
Yes. Oh, that's a recent one.
Well, yeah. And I wanted to check out what was recent, what was new.
Yeah.
And the title grabbed me. And then I had to go into your catalog, and I'm not done yet. I really like it. But you talk about the moment it became clear for you and how it clicked. Maybe you could give us a little overview, and I could drill in with a few questions.
Yeah, absolutely. So I wrote this article to really get at the point of, I think many people grow up thinking if they join a company, the company is this end all be all that is meant to develop them to whatever role they want and make their life whatever they want it to be. And I stopped and I thought about it years ago. And one day it dawned on me, because what happened is we reorganized, this is my GE days, we reorganized a company. It looked way different than it was. Maybe a strategy was slightly different than I thought it was going to be. My role looked different. And at that point in the time, it felt I had this victim mentality around the company did this or they did this or somebody did that. And I realized after that is I own my entire destiny. If I stopped and just treated companies like my vehicle to learn, my vehicle to develop, my vehicle to make connections, that is everything a company should be doing. And I own the rest. And that was so freeing. My mindset totally shifted. And frankly, when I tell even people that work for me that, they stop and they take ownership of their career. They take ownership of the roles they want, and they stop making it so emotional. And it just
Yeah.
changes everything.
Yeah. That really came through. And I, of course, started to think through, like anybody who reads your articles will, your own personal experience. I think the old paradigm was you join a company and then they're going to manage your career and they're going to take care of you as long as you're a good soldier and you do this and you do that.
Yep.
You're responsible for I'm responsible for my career. You're responsible for your career.
Absolutely.
And I think it leads to some of the disconnect. And you and I talked on the phone about this a little bit. Some of the younger people coming, and it makes me feel so old to say younger people. Some of the people I have 3 sons who are younger people in their early 30s and late 20s. So I talk to a lot of their friends, and their expectations are much different about what a company is, much closer aligned actually to what you're talking about here, I think.
Oh, totally. Everybody's expectation is different. And also, they expect, generally speaking, to feel aligned to the purpose and the values of the company.
Right.
Not
Right.
just my leader or the CEO or somebody else told them to do something, or this is my job and so I do it. But the overarching alignment and purpose is a requirement now. It didn't even used to be, even when I was starting, but it is now.
Right. Right. And it's such a healthier place to be. You talk about what companies actually provide. Companies shouldn't be your everything. And maybe you could talk a little bit about what you think companies should
Yeah.
provide.
Absolutely. They should provide the learning ground and the resources and the willingness to and the support to try lots of different things and to lead different types of teams and to see different types of industries or to be involved in all sorts of projects. Like all 3 of the companies that I've been a part of in my career so far have done those things for me. And as a result, and I ate up the experience and I made it my own and all of that, but they provide those things I couldn't have learned just as a self-taught individual. And so that's super, super valuable. And if you look at it like that and they do that, that's hugely valuable.
I loved your line. These are powerful gifts, but they are not everything.
Yes.
And that is such an important flip of the paradigm in my view.
Totally.
It really is.
Totally.
And I think when I think about the workplace today and how it's different than the workplace of a decade ago, even,
Yeah.
I think this is kind of the mindset. I think this is a very healthy mindset.
I do too. I absolutely do. I think it would lead if companies, and they don't all think this way, but if companies supported that mindset versus pushing against it, you'd get more engaged workers, you'd get people that actually are completely aligned to what the company's purpose is, and you'd actually get more out of people. And I just don't think there are too many companies that actually think that way yet.
Right. And I think that is maybe because um, people haven't aged into those or grown into those roles yet.
Yes.
And
100%.
yeah, but I think the more, if I'm a younger listener or younger in my career, more junior in my career, whatever terminology you want to use, there's real wisdom in this that can serve you very, very well. And honestly, to the audience out there, Kelly's Substack really did blow me away today. And it has so much. I sent links to my sons already. I'm like, you need to be reading what this lady is writing. And because, and it's not because you're a guest, I'm super glad you are, but it's really, really good stuff. I love the idea. I really focused on this and highlighted it because I printed a page here,
I love it.
this article. The notion of extracting lessons from every meeting, every leader, every conflict, every project. And what I wanted to say to you, not all leaders are created equal. Not every conflict, not every project. They all have a variance on the good to bad scale. And you can learn from both, right?
Oh my gosh. Yes. So I think one of the most dangerous things about some of the environment we're in today is if somebody today hears something that they don't agree with or makes them angry or drives them bananas or whatever, they run the other way. That's actually horrible. And the reason it's horrible is because if nothing else, you're losing the opportunity to get even better by the other side. And even if the only thing you're learning is here are all the things I don't want to do, you're running away from the learning.
Yeah.
That's part of the thing.
That's so interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. And I remember this one leader I had. He drove me bananas for many, many different reasons. But what he was excellent at, better than anybody else, was he could sell anything to anybody, anything to anybody. Like literally didn't matter. He's a terrible leader. But I made it a point to try to help him be a better leader, but extract this one thing from him, even though he drove me crazy. I got much, 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 much better. And I got much better in front of customers. I got much better in big negotiations because I wasn't the one that said, I don't want to work for him like most people did. I said, I'll do it. Sounds great.
Right.
And you extract that one thing.
Yeah. I didn't think about it as sophisticated as you wrote about it, but in the time when I had good bosses, I had horrible bosses, I had every kind of boss you could have.
Yeah.
And I really was purposeful, even though it was sort of primitive. Boy, I'm sure not going to do that when I'm the leader. I'm sure not going to do that. And I think that is playing out real time, because one of the things that this whole world and the technology, things are much more transparent, aren't they?
Yeah. Oh, yes. Much more transparent.
And natural tendency is to run away from a bad leader.
Mhm.
I love your thinking that, no, let's work through this, pick up the lessons I need to have. I don't have to move here,
Yeah.
but for a time, for a season, let's play.
Absolutely. And when you do that and you make that intentional, what I found is even the pieces that drove me bananas in the beginning didn't after a while because I knew very clearly what I was trying to extract. And your mind does amazing things at that point.
In your article, you say that shift changed everything.
Yeah.
And your quote is, because once you stop waiting for the company to architect your destiny, you finally begin to build it yourself. And it's so empowering, right?
Totally.
So empowering. And I also like the notion that you talk about that you're building your brand.
Yes.
So you're working for a company, but you're building your brand,
Yes.
your values, your voice. And I was
Yes.
wondering if you could talk a little bit about building your voice.
Yeah, because early in my career, I thought if I work for a company, that is my identity. And later on, I thought, no, I need to be the architect of what do I stand for? What do I want to be remembered for? I had this thing in my head. When I'm 80, what do I want to look back and say people remembered me for? What did I contribute? What did I drive? All of these things. And from that perspective, I started actually working on a brand. Like, what do I actually want to be through these things? Because at the end of the day, it's never, no one's ever going to remember as president of whatever and let all these people, nobody's going to care. But what they will remember is, how did I make them feel? And how did I motivate them? And what did I contribute? And all of these things, that's what they'll remember. They'll have no idea about any of the other stuff. And so it really kind of converges in one.
Yeah. I think that's so powerful. And you phrase it as, you use every chapter to build something that lasts, not titles, not proximity to power, but a body of work, a
Yes.
brand, a voice. And I just loved that notion of a voice, because that's really my hope that we're all aspiring to be, to sharpen. And I hope I never stop doing that until until the final gun.
Absolutely.
Oh, here was the last thing from this article. Then I hate to, I know I sound like a fanboy, but I just loved these articles.
I love it.
This notion of, am I expecting my company to build something I was always meant to build for myself? Because that just
Yeah.
blows up the whole old paradigm, doesn't it?
Oh, yes. And I've been telling this to a lot of my younger 20, 30 somethings that work on my teams. And the minute they start doing something with it, they just behave in a totally different way. It's just this empowered view. And with empowerment for nearly anybody comes happiness and fulfillment, because you then own it. And so you just end up with happier people.
Yeah. And that's exactly right. And the notion that here's my work person, here's who I am at work, here's who I am at home. You're one person.
Oh my gosh.
You're one person, and it's sort of folly to think anything but that.
Totally.
I want to. Can I go to the next article?
Yeah.
That I just
Absolutely.
loved. And if you haven't figured it out yet, folks, subscribe. Please subscribe. Here, let me grab this. There it is. Okay. I bet you didn't expect me to be talking about your Substack, but
I love it. I'm super happy.
I just couldn't believe how much it resonated. So the next one that I dug into, and this was something at different times in my career I did well, and at different times I don't think I did well. And that is, the most important team you are on is not the one you lead. And how much does that suck? Because it's so much, it'd be so much more fun if the most important team was the one you lead.
It really would. And a lot easier for that.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Way easier. Yeah. So that one was about, the most important team is actually your set of peers that you actually need to be in one unified group, aiming for one unified vision together. And nobody thinks about it, because in the most toxic teams, everybody's competing with each other. I've been on those teams. And nothing gets done. Nothing gets done because everybody's focused on whatever their vertical is. Finance person's doing finance stuff, strategy person's doing strategy stuff. Nobody's actually aligned. They compete. But when the leader is actually clearly communicating, here's the goal and the vision, and everybody works together, not against each other, but together to get it. It's not just that team is more effective. It's all the people below see that, wait, my leaders are all on the same page. And when that happens, everything changes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And when people see misalignment,
yes,
it creates shadows or gaps where people can hide.
Absolutely.
And it's not that these people running their verticals, I think of it as verticals and a horizontal, running their verticals are bad. They've been rewarded and promoted because they're great at running those verticals.
Yes, totally.
And now what they were great at can be a fatal behavior, a fatal flaw, if they allow it to interfere in what's in the best interest of the enterprise, what's in the best interest of all of us.
Totally. And they're usually the ones that are surprised when succession happens at the big job and lots of people don't get it, or they go external and nobody can figure out why. But
Right.
many times it's they never learned how to think enterprise wide.
That's so interesting. And I always, as I was thinking about it this afternoon, and I was thinking on my own leadership journey, it's not always all about me, but I was just thinking about my journey with this. And one of the hardest things to do is to move on a leader. She's great in her vertical, but she's very poor in the enterprise view, or the horizontal, as I call it.
Yeah.
And everybody sees that.
Yeah.
And if you're sitting on top of that enterprise, you've got to make a move that changes that behavior.
Yep.
Or you've got to change that person.
Yeah. There's no other way. Absolutely.
And that is so hard to do, because the leader sitting on top of the enterprise is like, well, I could set that vertical on. I mean, it's a contrary to human nature, but it really struck me, and I thought it was really well positioned in your article.
Thank you.
Can you talk a little bit in the article? You talk about the moment everything became clear. There was a major market disruption. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So there was a moment where everything we were building, effectively, the market decided it didn't need, and frankly, they weren't. No one was going to pay the price that actually was required for it to be sustainable. And what you ended up seeing are the engineering folks fighting with the tech folks because they're from different worlds, and all they basically did was blame each other. Everybody was just blaming each other. Every meeting became a blame game. Nobody took ownership for basically anything. And so at that point, we actually needed to step back and mediate a little bit, but all say, no more blame, no more blame. Here's the vision. Here's what we need to do. It actually ended up with somebody getting fired, which sometimes it does. But that behavior of one team, meaning the peer team, one mission, one goal, you're either in or you're out. If you're in, we'll solve it. And if you're not, and you're just going to blame people, you're out. And it took that type, and you were alluding to that a bit with your story too. It takes that type of really hard decision to solve it, but we had to.
And people notice when the leader makes a change because the greater interest isn't being served.
Exactly.
I also liked, and we won't drain it because I want to get to one more. You're on the back end of the article, you talk about how high performing peer teams are built. And one of the things you say is they make norms explicit. How we debate, how we decide, how we communicate afterwards. Basically, what you're saying, I think, is nothing's left unsaid, and there's no meeting outside the room.
Exactly. No meeting out, because that happens in corporate life. I'm sure you've seen many of it too.
Oh my gosh.
No meetings outside the meeting. And when there is a decision, there's a disagreement in the room, but a commitment. And so you don't disagree and then not do it. You disagree, commit, and then move all the forces on your team towards the goal. That's it.
So you register your disagreement.
Yes.
Then you commit because that's what the direction the team is going.
Yes.
And then what did you say? Move your forces against that objective.
Yes.
Fantastic. We got to do one more. You game for one more?
Absolutely.
Also, I got to touch the takeaway here. If you want more speed, build more alignment. If you want more influence, strengthen the team you sit with. It's so counterintuitive, Kelly, but it's so smart. And if you want the organization to rise, elevate the way the leadership team operates. And that's 100% where you have a company that is just rolling. I guarantee you that leadership team is aligned.
Absolutely. Yeah. 100%.
Got to do one more because this really, and then you got to come back and cover some more of these with me because these are gold.
Love it.
All right. I'm going to hold you to that, Kelly. Let me find the one I want to touch on here. Just pulling up. While I'm doing this, you should all be preparing to subscribe to Kelly's Substack because it's so good. Here it is. Here it is. Come on, Brian. How to manage your manager, Kelly. That's what I want to close on.
Yes.
Because I call this one the, well, you know what people call this one. This is the brown nose. This is the brown nosing one.
Yeah.
How to manage your manager. I found it very enlightening. And I'm wondering if you could just talk a little bit about it for us.
Absolutely. So I wrote this one because this is the one I get lots and lots of questions about, either for people that work for me or for other people or mentees that I have. And it came to light several years ago. But what happened is I had this manager and I thought I was being super, super helpful by providing him reams of PowerPoints and information and all sorts of pretty pictures of all this analysis and all this other stuff. And I couldn't figure out why we weren't clicking. I couldn't figure out why I couldn't get decisions out of him. I just couldn't figure out why this relationship didn't seem to work until I figured it out. He did not want or need reams of information. He wanted the punchline, he wanted my recommendation, and he wanted to know what I needed from him to succeed. And instead, I was giving him a map and expecting him to dissect it and come to something. Totally different. And so I wrote this to get at the point of not every manager is the same. Not every manager wants things exactly the same. Not every manager consumes things the same way. And so it's actually the job of the colleague and the individual to ask a couple of basic questions. How do you prefer to receive information? And how do you prefer to be updated? And how much do you want my recommendation, or do you want me to walk through? Just ask some basic questions. Yeah. And people respond pretty clearly, actually. And then you just tweak. It's like mind-blowingly simple.
It is mind-blowingly simple, which is why it's amazing that it's not common practice.
I know.
It's so simple. Tell me how you want to receive it, and that's what I'll give you.
Yes. I mean, it's exactly.
How simple can it be?
Yeah.
I also loved when your little section on trying to fix them.
Oh, yes.
that is, if that's not a recipe for disaster, and I've done it, everybody's done it. Everybody's had that experience.
Exactly. We all do it. We all do it in our personal and our professional lives, and it doesn't work in either. I can attest to that. And so you just got to meet people where they are and what they do. And I kept trying to get something out of this manager to be something that he's just wasn't, until I just did it the way that I actually got what I needed. And it was like, it just changed everything.
And didn't you both actually get what you needed?
Yeah. And it's amazing. I started thinking, oh my God, this guy's going to fire me because he just seems unhappy after every meeting, to getting promoted twice under him. And so it's like, all I had to do is ask, how do you prefer to receive the information? It was so simple.
So interesting. And I'm sure it eased your load a bit, because if you're trying to anticipate how they want to get it, you're going to be covering all bases you don't need to.
Oh my God. My workload per week went down by like 30% because I wasn't doing this guesswork of stuff that he never read or needed anyway.
So interesting and so powerful. Can I just touch on this too? This idea of don't mistake quiet for consent. I think that's interesting. I think there's life lessons all over there.
Oh, there totally is. And I've had people do it to me too now as a leadership position, where if I don't say something, or my leader doesn't say something, someone just takes it away as, well, you didn't comment. I was like, it's actually not the same thing. And so if you're not getting the response, I always tell my team when they're talking to me, just say, hey, you didn't respond to this. Are you aligned if I do this? Or do you want to talk about it? Like, just clarify. It's just about
Right.
questioning communication. And I learned to do that also with my leaders early on as well.
I think your take on all this is so refreshing and so smart and so practical. So practical.
Thank you.
Can I'm going to ask you to close for me, Kelly, on what's one leadership myth you'd retire tomorrow if you could?
Oh, and you touched on it. It's my pet peeve. You have to, you leave work at work and personal at personal. It is such crap. And I'll tell you this, no one in their 20s and 30s finds that behavior authentic. Nobody does. If you show up with work and then you have home over here and then you come back at work, everybody will think you're a robot and they will not follow you anymore. It does not work anymore in this century.
Interesting. Interesting. And I agree with you. And you and I talked about this a little bit when we spoke. Authenticity is it is the shining object on the hill.
Yes.
Be real, be a human being, deal with me, and I'll work with you.
Absolutely.
It's just so powerful.
It really is.
Kelly, where can people find you?
Yes. So leadwithkelly.substack.com is my is my Substack, and Kelly A. McGinnis on LinkedIn also.
And I'm telling you, subscribe to that Substack. I'm going to be tracking it. I'm going to be following it. And I'm going to ask Kelly to come back in a few months and we'll have another discussion about this. Kelly, I find you to be a breath of fresh air in a leadership desert. And I'm very excited to get to know you better.
Thank you. Same, Brett.
Thank you so much. And let's talk again soon. I'm very sincere in that. Okay.
Excellent.
Okay, I want to thank Kelly McGinnis. Subscribe to her Substack, find her on LinkedIn. And that's it for this episode of the most important podcast ever. A big thanks to Kelly McGinnis for sharing her story and stories. And if you've enjoyed this conversation, please share it with someone who might find it meaningful. And I know from your direct messages and comments, you're looking for advice like this. Kelly's got it. Pass it along. And you can watch and listen on our YouTube channel. Follow us on social media, and we're available wherever you get your podcasts. And I want to thank the crew at Streetside Studio 7. I want to thank our hosts at Deja Blue House of Coffee in beautiful Alexandria, Minnesota. And again, I want to thank Kelly, and I want to thank all of you for tuning in. Take care, everybody. We'll see you next week.